me, and everybody had excellent experience in his or her field. So I'm just going to present that particular survey result to you first, and then say something which I think may be complementary to what is presented in the first two slides. So what are the correlates of smartness, indigenous technology, and self-reliance in every walk of the smart city development? May it be how we use energy, how we organize transportation. We will have to develop quote unquote Indian model for development and indigenization of technology, and we'll have to be self-reliant in order to provide those services. Of course, we have to learn from the rest of the world. We should continue to do that, but ultimately it is our problem based on our cultural ethos and our cultural priorities, and therefore it has to be indigenous. Number one, careful mixture of energy sources is going to be one of the most important determining factor in deciding smartness of the city. So the basic issue is going to be what kind of renewables and non-renewables are we going to mix, such as solar versus nuclear versus thermal versus hydro versus even the newer opportunities such as waste to energy. How do we really combine these things together is going to be deciding the smartness component or impact factor of our cities. Number three is carbon positive footprint of all the things that we organize in terms of services, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of creating infrastructure, in terms of operating the infrastructure. We'll have to be carbon positive as far as possible. Obviously, it goes without saying that in the same way, we can say we have to be aiming at zero emissions. And obviously, to be able to achieve that, in reality, we will have to focus recycling and reuse of several things which can be derived from solid waste, wastewater, and so many other matrices in a given urban infrastructure. Then the rejuvenation of ecosystem is going to be another big challenge for us. And in our country, several such experiments already have started, and far more will have to be done in terms of rejuvenation of ecosystem, because our real life is derived from the ecosystem around us. In the sequel of rejuvenation of infrastructure, we have to also say upgradation of environmental attributes of a given locality, which is going to be equally important. And I am not referring to, my friends, compliance of the environmental laws, which I think is the minimum performance. I am saying something more than that. That is upgradation of the environment, rejuvenation of ecosystem and upgradation of environment. These are the two terms I learned from Dr. Madhav Chitare when I had opportunity to work under his supervision as a part of the Chitare committee aftermath of 2005 floods in Mumbai. And these two terms, literally, I have fallen in love because I see the meaning in them far more than simply compliance, or far more than doing some tinkering or patchwork or superficial work. The next issue is vertical growth versus horizontal sprawl. And enough has been talked, and brilliant work has been done by town planners and city architects and development planners. There is no single solution, whether this way or that way, because there are two kinds of problems that we will have to address. One is the brownfield reality versus another is the greenfield reality. And no one solution is going to be adequate if you really want to address both the. So we'll have to be carefully combining both with a thoughtful approach of planning and implementation. Monitoring and dissemination of data, we felt, was going to be one of the most important things, because a, once you disseminate the data, people start asking questions. Data by itself is a very powerful weapon, and if you do not count something, if you do not monitor it carefully, then you will probably not improve on that account. So in that direction, monitoring and dissemination of data is not only going to increase subscription of people, community, into the development process, into building of smart city infrastructure. At the same time, democratic processes will be supported the moment you are more transparent and you disseminate the information that is collected either through private agencies or through governmental agencies. But information has to be made available for people through the information technology routes. And finally, and extremely important, that this kind of information and this kind of monitoring activity, continuous monitoring activity, will help us in deciding our goals, which will also help us in deciding our strategies and plan those strategies carefully. and thereby increase the quality of our governance, because only creation of infrastructure cannot give you enough smartness. You have to also implement the smart infrastructure in a similar way in years to come. And the government governance issue is extremely important, and participation of people is going to be even more important. Both the political leaders yesterday and the technical experts yesterday spoke about these issues, and I think we have to keep that particular message in our mind. So then from this platform, which I learned from the audience in the breakaway session, and that I am mixing with little bit of my experience, little bit of my ability to think, and I am proposing four strategies for transitioning to sustainable future. Number one is frugal engineering and sustainable consumption. Number one, we are a country of Buddha and Gandhi. We know 6,000 years of our civilization already, and so many excellent examples were given in the keynote address yesterday in the beginning session about the literature even as old as Ramayana and Mahabharata. So we need to really learn from our past, and we need to basically reduce our footprint through frugality. And frugality is not a bad word, it's a very positive word, and I'm using it in the most responsible manner. The science and technology with innovation is going to be another mantra for us that we need to probably take forward. Preventive environmental management is going to be yet another very important strategy, because we all will agree that prevention is better than cure. And obviously, the last thing is incremental development. And I have forgotten to type a T there. So clearly, I have not crossed every T and every I in this presentation. But the incremental development is one thing that, as I am getting slightly older and older, I am believing more in incremental change than sea change or a step change, because I have realized that with my kind of inertia, bodily and as well as mind, I cannot jump onto 25th floor so easily. I will have to climb step by step and landing by landing. And this is only metaphorically I am saying, but I mean it when I am talking about planning and managing the change and development in this society. So, friends, very briefly, I'll just touch upon these four strategies very briefly, because there is far more to talk even further than these four strategies. Frugal engineering basically is jugaad. It is reducing the complexity and cost of product or service. And Indians don't have to be taught about jugaad, because it is in our blood, it is in our culture, and we are very good at it. And again, I'm using jugaad as a very good quality, as a very good word. I believe in jugaad, and that is what actually makes us ahead of, in our engineering practices, ahead of rest of the world. If one approaches frugality for achieving the right results, it can bring wonders. And this is what I believe, and that's why I'm proposing the jugaad as one of the important strategies. But the other part of the jugaad is also frugal, in the sense of not only in systems or services, but also inculcate that into ourselves through sustainable consumption. And I think this is a collective responsibility. You can't simply increase the amount of consumption and then also combine that with engineering efficiency. The net the consumption multiplied by the amount of consumed materials multiplied by the engineering efficiency, still the net result can be eroding for ecosystem, eroding for resources and environment. And therefore we have to be more responsible in sustainable consumption. So what can I tell this audience? You all will agree very easily that we have to consume smartly. And this smartly word is deliberately planted here, because you cannot be a citizen of a smart city when only the engineering infrastructure is smart or the roads are smart, but we are not smart. So we have to consume smartly. Number two, minimize carbon footprint, as I already said, minimize ecological impacts, as we already said, which people also voted for. And we have to ask a very honest question, that is your consumption sustainable? And sustainable is not only less, not only frugal, but there is far more connotation, deeper connotation to sustainability, which we probably will have to question. And what will you not do and not use is a $1 million question that we all will have to ask. Because with my positive, so-called positive approach nowadays, everything is possible and say yes to everything. However, I cannot really believe that anything and everything is possible. We have to draw a Lakshman Rekha, and one of the important lessons from Ramayana is that have we really drawn that dotted line, and do we really have courage and character not to cross it? If we do that, then only we will achieve something in life. So we will have to decide as a society, as a community, as a development paradigm, we will not do certain things, and we will not use certain things as a community. And what will you hold above a normal or conventional cost benefit analysis? In other words, what would you include in cost benefit analysis? What is the cost and what is the benefit? Who at whose cost and benefit of who? These are the larger questions which NGOs have forced technical community, social community to ask, and we have to become more humble and learn these questions by heart and try to understand the larger meaning of the behind those questions. Well, now I am just talking about the innovations. My friends, track record of innovations is not that good throughout the world. And as you know that most of the times the innovations essentially have helped rich, and very most of the times it has been a business of developing weapon and developing technology related to warfare and mass killing. And even today it continues the same way. Many of the organizations internationally, companies which boast for their socially relevant work actually have amassed the wealth through war technology. So don't forget that. But at the same time, we don't have to always think in a negative direction. Innovations also have helped and played important role in many sectors such as health, education, transport, communication, infrastructure, energy, governance, wealth. So many so many walks of life which are going to be extremely important for creation and maintenance of smart cities. At the same time, I would also like to caution you that some of the most important challenges which are faced by us in 21st century are yet to be addressed by so-called smart people who are busy doing innovation, and most important among them being poverty, hunger, environmental degradation, violence, war, issues related to security and sovereignty and citizens' rights. So do not intoxicate ourselves with the success of science and technology and believe that we can do everything. We have to become more humble and more responsible, and know that what we have not done so far, our track record is poor and we can do better. We have to do better. So the whole question is that what is that Indian model of development that I'm supporting in the name of innovation, and how do I really go forward from here? And the policy for science and technology for development has already been drafted by Indian government, and it is out there now, and it is basically trying to work on science, technology, and innovation for larger social good. When and if you have chance, kindly look at the draft. Kindly look at the detailed text of the science and technology policy, and it is really having extremely important and commendable elements. And it is not a coincidence that India is talking about science, technology, and innovation. Already, so many communities in the world have proven it, and we also have anticipated that such a direction will really help us in doing socially correct things. So, science technology policy of 2013 is worth looking at. So, I would like to skip the discussion on science, technology, and innovation policy because of the paucity of time, and I would like to go to the next element of strategy, which is the incorporation of preventive strategies and namely preventive environmental management. Many people have defined preventive environmental management in many ways, and there are better and better ways that researchers and implementing communities bringing forward. But one of the things which probably highlights the essential element or the necessary condition for prevention is that it should be a continuous application of an integrated preventive environment. I always get tired. So many important words put together in this definition, that integrated preventive environmental strategy to reduce risk to humans and environment. Of course, we all, especially because of our Hindu tradition in this country, we are looking at every living and non-living element of the environment as a part of the system. Nobody is questioning that. But obviously, doing good to human beings is the first thing that we will have to probably do. And only when we survive, so many other things can be done in a meaningful way. In that sense, humans and environment is included in this particular explanation of preventive approach. Now, how would we really see preventive approach in the context of a larger problem? That we will have to probably look at the earth, look at environment as a system, and how the environment as a system is viewed. Environmental system is that entity which is part of a larger system, and it is made up of subsystems, which further are made up of subsystems. I am not here in the business of mincing words. I mean every word of this definition that I am giving you. Until you understand that you are connected to the larger reality vertically and horizontally, you will not be really able to implement a systemic change and systemic approach to the development, and that has to be really understood clearly. So, what are the more familiar tools of preventive environmental management? The more familiar tools are environment audit, for example, which is already practiced in our country very often by industry as well as municipalities. Environmental impact assessment, obviously there is a legislation on it. Life cycle assessment is a very important tool that people have been utilizing. Now the mood is that we are using in fact life cycle assessment and life cycle costing